So, hey everyone, today we are going to learn about luck and risk. What is luck and what is risk? So, let's learn about it. So, as good or as bad as it, luck and risk are siblings. They are both the reality that every outcome in life is guided by forces other than individual effort. NYU professor Scott Galloway has a related idea that is so important to remember when judging success, both your own and others. Nothing is as good or as bad as it seems. Bill Gates went to one of the only high school in the world that had a computer. The story of how Lakeside School, just outside Seattle, even got a computer is remarkable. Bill Dowell was a World War II Navy pilot turned high school math and science teacher. He believed that book study was not enough without real world experience. He also realized that we would need to know something about computers when we got to college. Recalled the Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen. In 1968, Dougal petitioned the Lakeside School Mothers Club to use the proceeds from its annual revenge sale, about $3,000, to lease a teletype model 30 computer hooked up to the General Electric mainframe terminal for computer time sharing. The whole idea of time sharing only got invented in 1965. Gates later said someone was pretty forward looking. Most university graduate schools did not have a computer anywhere near as advanced as Bill Gates had access to in 8th grade, and he could not get enough of it. Gates was 13 years old in 1968 when he met classmate Paul Allen. Allen was also obsessed with the school's computer and the two hit it off. Lakeside's computer was not part of its general curriculum. It was an independent study program. Bill and Paul could, to, could toy away with the thing at their leisure, letting their creativity run wild. After school, late into the night, on weekends, they quickly became computing experts. During one of their late night sessions, Allen recalled Gates showing him a Fortune magazine and saying, "What do you think it's like to run a Fortune 500 company?" Allen said he had no idea. Maybe we will have our own computer company someday. Gates said Microsoft is now worth more than $1 trillion. A little quick math. In 1968, there were roughly 303 million high school age people in the world, according to the UN. About 18 million of them lived in the United States. About 2 lakh 7 70,000 of them lived in Washington state. A little over 1 lakh of them lived in the Seattle area, and only about 300 of them attended Lakeside School. Start with 303 million and with 300. One in a million high school age students attended the schools that had the combination of cash and foresight to buy a computer. Bill Gates happened to be one of them. Gates is not shy about what this meant. If there had been no Lakeside, there would have been no Microsoft, he told the school's graduating class in 2005. Gates is staggeringly smart, even more hardworking, and as a teenager had a vision for computers that even most seasoned computer executive could not grasp. He also had a one in a million he had start by going to school at Lakeside. Now let me tell you about Gates' friend Kent Evans. He experienced an equally powerful dose of luck's close sibling risks. Bill Gates and Paul Allen became household names thanks to Microsoft's success. But back at Lakeside, there was a third member of this gang of high school computer pro prodigies. Kent Evans and Bill Gates became best friends in 8th grade. Evans was by Gates' on account the best student in the class. The two talked on the phone ridiculous amounts. Gates recalls in the documentary Inside Bill's Brain. I still know Kent's phone number. He says 525-7851. Evans was as skilled with computers as Gates and Allen. Lakeside once struggled to manually put together the school's class schedule, a maze of complexity to get hundreds of students the classes they need at times that don't conflict with others' course. The school tasked Bill and Kent, children by any measure, to build a computer program to solve the problem. It worked. And unlike Paul Allen, Kent shared Bill's business mind and endless ambition. Kent always had the big briefcase, like a lawyer's briefcase. Gates recalls, we were always scheming about what we would be doing 5 or 6 years in the future. What would we be doing? Should we should we go be CEOs? What kind of impact could you have? Should we go be generals? Should we go be ambassadors? Whatever it was, Bill and Kent knew they would do it together. After reminiscing, after reminiscing on his friendship with Kent, Gates trails off. We would have kept working together. I'm sure we would have got to college together. Kent could have been a founding partner of Microsoft with Gates and Allen. But it would never happen. Kent died in mountaineering accident before he graduated high school. Every year there are around 3 dozen mountaineering deaths in the United States. The odds of being killed on a mountain in high school are roughly 1 in a million. Bill Gates experienced 1 in a million lucky by ending up at Lakeside. Kent Evans experienced 1 in a million risk by never getting to finish what he and Gates set out to achieve. The same force, the same magnitude working to opposite directions. Luck and risk are both the reality that every outcome in life is guided by forces other than individual effort. They are so similar that you cannot believe in one without equally respecting the other. They both happen because the world is too complex to allow 100% of your actions to dictate 100% of your outcomes. They are driven by the same thing. You are one person in a game with 7 billion other people and infinite moving parts. The accidental impact of actions outside of your control can be more consequential than the ones you consciously take. But both are so hard to measure and hard to accept that they too often go overlooked. For every Bill Gates, there is a Canty once who was just as skilled and driven but ended up on the other side of life roulette. If you give luck and risk their proper respect, you realize that when judging people's financial success, both your own and others, it is never as good or as bad as it seems. Years ago, I asked economist Robert Siller, who won the Nobel Prize in Economics, what do you want to know about investing that we cannot know? The exact role of luck in successful outcomes. He answered, I love that response because no one actually thinks luck does not play a role in financial success. But since it's hard to quantify luck and rude to suggest people's success is owed to it, the default stance is often to implicitly ignore luck as a factor of success. If I say there are billion investors in the world by sheer chance, would you expect 100 of them to become billionaire? Predominant predominantly of luck, you would reply, of course. But then if I ask you to name those investors to their face, you will likely back down. When judging others, attributing success to luck makes you look jealous and mean, even if we know it exists. And when judging yourself, attributing success to luck can be too demoralizing to accept. Economist Bhaskar Mazumdar has shown that income among brothers are more correlated than height or weight. If you are rich and tall, your brother is more likely to also be rich than he is tall. I think most of us intuitively know this is true. The quality of your education and the doors that open for you are heavily linked to your parents' socio-economic status. But find me two rich brothers, and I will show you two men who do not think this study's findings apply to them. Failure, which can be anything from bankruptcy to not meeting in personal goal, is equally abused. Did failed business not try hard enough? Were bad investments not thought through well enough? Are wayward careers due to laziness? Sometimes, yes, of course. But how much? It is so hard to know. Everything worth pursuing has less than 100% odds of succeeding, and risk is just what happens when you end up on the unfortunate side of that equation. Just as with luck, the story gets too hard, too messy, too complex. If we try to pick apart how much of an outcome was a conscious decision versus a risk. Say I buy a stock and 5 years later it is gone nowhere. It is possible that I made a bad decision by buying it in the first place. It is also possible that I made a good decision that had an 80% chances of making money, and I just happened to end up on the side of the unfortunate 20%. How do I know which is which? Did I make a mistake or did I just experience the reality of risk? It is possible to statistically measure whether some decisions were wise, but in the real world, day to day, we simply don't. It's too hard. We prefer simple stories which are easy but often devil, uh, devilishly misleading. After spending years around investors and business leaders, I have come to realize that someone else's failure is usually attributed to bad decisions, while your own failures are usually chalked up to the dark side of risk. When judging your failures, I am likely to prefer a clean and simple story of causes and effect because I don't know what's going on inside your head. You had a bad outcome, so it must have been caused by a bad decision. Is the story that makes the most sense to me. But when judging myself, I can make up a wild narrative justifying my past decisions and attributing bad outcomes to this. The cover of Forbes magazines does not celebrate poor investors who made good decisions but happened to experience the unfortunate side of risk. But it is almost certainly celebrates rich investors who made okay or even reckless decisions and happened to get lucky. Both flipped the same coin that happened to land and on a different side. The dangerous part of this is that we are all trying to learn about what works and what does not with money. What investing strategies work, which one don't. What business strategies work, which ones don't. How do you get rich? How do you avoid being poor? We tend to seek out these lessons by observing successes and failures and saying, do what she did, avoid what he did. If we had a magic wand, we would find out exactly what proportion of these outcomes were caused by actions that are repeatable versus the role of random risk and luck that swayed those actions one way or the other. But we don't have a magic wand. We have brains that prefer easy answers without much appetite for nuance. So, identifying the traits we should emulate or avoid can be agonizingly hard. Let me tell you another story of someone who, like Bill Gates, was wildly successful but whose success is hard to pin down as a being caused by luck or skill. Cornelius Vanderbilt had just finished a series of business deals to expand his railroad empire. One of his business advisors leaned in to tell Vanderbilt that every transaction he agreed to broke the law. My God, John said, Vanderbilt, you don't suppose you can run a railroad in accordance with the with the statutes of the state of New York, do you? My first thought when reading this was that attitude is why he was so successful.